She laughed into her wine glass and said it loudly enough for the whole table to hear. Relax. He's just my husband. He's not exactly impressive. The people around us chuckled. One of her friends smiled awkwardly. Another looked at me then away. And then her friend across the table froze, eyes locked on my face, and went completely silent. I didn't understand what that silence meant yet. Not then. At that moment, all I felt was the heat climbing up my neck and the familiar shrinking in my chest. That sensation of becoming smaller in public, like your body wants to fold inward to escape. This was supposed to be a celebration dinner. Her promotion. A rooftop restaurant downtown, warm lights, polished concrete, the city breathing below us. She'd invited coworkers, friends, people I barely knew. I wore the only blazer I owned that still fit right. I told myself I was proud of her. She didn't introduce me with my name. Just, this is my husband. Like a label. Not a person. I'm 42 years old. I work in risk compliance, the kind of job no one asks follow-up questions about. I live in Chicago. I've spent most of my adult life being steady, predictable, invisible in the ways I thought were respectable. We'd been married 11 years. Together 14. Distance didn't announce itself loudly in our marriage. It crept in through small exclusions. She stopped asking me to come to work events. Started saying things like, "You wouldn't enjoy it," or "It's mostly industry talk." At home she scrolled while I talked, nodded without listening, corrected my stories in front of people, finished my sentences, wrong, and laughed when I tried to fix them. I learned to go quiet. That night, though, she was different. Brighter. Sharper. Performing. She leaned into the attention, the laughter, the subtle power shift that happens when someone realizes the room is orbiting them. And I was just furniture. When one of her coworkers asked how we met, she rolled her eyes. "Oh my God," she said. "It's so boring. He was just there." Laughter again. I smiled. Because that's what you do when you're trained not to disrupt. Then someone, a guy I'd never met, raised his glass and said, "So what does he do?" She answered before I could. "He keeps things safe," she said, smirking. "He's very cautious." The word cautious landed like an insult wrapped in politeness. I felt it then. The humiliation wasn't accidental. It was curated. She needed me smaller so she could feel bigger. And when I didn't push back, when I didn't interrupt her narrative, she escalated. "You know," she added, glancing around the table, "I always joked that if I'd waited a little longer, I would have ended up with someone more ambitious." That's when it happened. The woman sitting 2 seats down, mid-30s, sharp eyes, quiet presence, stopped smiling. She set her glass down slowly and looked at me again. Really looked. Then she said my name. Not loudly. Not theatrically. Just clearly. "Wait," she said. "You're that Daniel?" The table went quiet. My wife turned toward her, confused. "What do you mean?" The woman's eyes never left mine. "I worked at Meridian Financial," she said. "Years ago." My wife blinked. "Okay. You led the internal review after the breach," the woman continued. "The one that shut down the entire operation." I felt my pulse spike. My wife laughed nervously. "Oh, that thing," she said. "He barely mentions work." I didn't even know it was a big deal. The woman didn't laugh. "It was," she said. "You saved the firm from federal charges. Half the executive team got replaced." Silence swallowed the table. My wife looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Or maybe realizing she never really had. "That was you?" she asked. I nodded once. "I didn't think it mattered," I said. And in that moment, watching her confusion, her recalculation, I understood something with terrifying clarity. She hadn't humiliated me because she thought I was nothing. She humiliated me because she needed me to be. Her smile didn't fully return after that. It hovered, forced, uncertain, like someone trying to regain footing on a floor that just shifted. "Well," she said lightly, too lightly, "he never talks about that stuff." The woman across from her nodded once. "That's because he doesn't need to." Something in my wife's posture stiffened. Not anger. Something closer to exposure. The conversation restarted, but the rhythm was off. People glanced at me now. Asked questions directly. What kind of work did I do exactly? How long had I been in the field? What was Meridian like before the fallout? I answered politely. Briefly. I wasn't interested in reclaiming attention. I was watching my wife struggle with a narrative she'd built, one where I was auxiliary, unimpressive, safely smaller than her. Every time someone nodded at something I said, her jaw tightened. Halfway through the main course, she leaned over and whispered, "Why didn't you ever tell me it was that serious?" I kept my eyes on my plate. "You never asked." That landed harder than anything else I could have said. On the ride home, the car was silent. Streetlights slid across the windshield like ticking seconds. "You embarrassed me tonight," she finally said. I almost laughed. Almost. "I didn't say anything," I replied. "You let them think I didn't know who I married." I turned to her then. "You made sure of that." She scoffed. "Don't twist this." "I'm not," I said calmly. "I'm just done absorbing it." She pulled into our driveway and cut the engine. The quiet was dense. "I was joking back there," she said. "You're too sensitive." That word again. Sensitive. The catch-all used when someone doesn't want to take responsibility for harm. "You called me unimpressive," I said. Publicly. She shrugged. "It was playful." "For who?" She didn't answer. Inside the house, she kicked off her heels and went straight to the bedroom. I stayed in the kitchen, staring at the same counter I'd leaned against 1,000 times, wondering when I'd learn to accept being diminished as a form of love. Later that night, she came out in a robe, arms crossed. "So what, you're mad now?" she asked. "I'm tired," I said. "There's a difference." She rolled her eyes. "You always do this. You withdraw instead of talking." I looked up at her. Talking only works when both people care what's being said. That's when she dropped it. Not loudly. Not angrily. Just flat. "I never married you for your ambition," she said. "I married you because you were safe." Safe. Not loved. Not respected. Safe like a locked door. A predictable outcome. A background presence. "And now?" I asked. She hesitated. "Just a beat too long. Now I feel like I outgrew you." There it was. I felt the collapse then, not explosive but total. Like a building realizing mid-fall that the ground isn't coming back up. I went to bed that night beside someone who'd already rewritten our marriage into a convenience she'd surpassed. The next weeks were worse than any argument. Polite distance. Weaponized normalcy. She stayed late with friends. Took calls in other rooms. Started dressing differently, not for me. One afternoon, I saw a name pop up on her phone I didn't recognize. Then again. And again. When I finally asked, she didn't deny it. "He's just someone I talk to," she said. "He listens." The sentence was surgical. "You're having an emotional affair," I said. She laughed softly. "God, you love labels. What would you call it?" "I'd call it necessary." Necessary. For her growth. Her validation. Her escape. "Do you sleep with him?" I asked. She paused. Then said, "Not yet." The honesty felt like mercy and punishment at the same time. "I don't feel chosen by you anymore," I said. She looked almost bored. "That's not my job." That was the moment something detached inside me. The part that kept hoping for repair. "I don't recognize us," I said. She shrugged. "People change." "Yes, they do. Sometimes into people who believe humiliation is harmless and loyalty is optional." I didn't beg. I didn't threaten. I simply started pulling back, emotionally, logistically. Quietly reclaiming space. She noticed, of course. "You're acting distant," she said one night. "I'm matching the distance," I replied. She didn't like that. A week later, she told me she wanted space to think. I nodded. "Take it." She packed a bag and left for her sisters. The house felt enormous without her. Too quiet, but also honest. 2 days later, I received a message from an unfamiliar number. "This is Lena. We met at the dinner. I hope this isn't inappropriate, but I wanted you to know something." I stared at the screen. "She's been telling people you're insecure and controlling." That night wasn't a joke. It was a performance. I exhaled slowly. "I thought you deserved to know." I thanked her. Nothing more. That message didn't hurt. It clarified. I didn't confront her after that message. Not because I was afraid, but because I was finished needing her to understand. She came back a week later. Same suitcase. Same practice, calm. Like she'd rehearsed a version of events where everything could be smoothed over, if we both just agreed not to look too closely. I've been thinking, she said, standing in the doorway. We both said things. Maybe we reset. Reset. Like humiliation and erasure were software glitches. I nodded once. We should talk. Relief flashed across her face. She took that as hope. We sat at the dining table. The same table where we'd eaten countless quiet dinners, scrolling separately, calling it peace. I didn't mean to hurt you, she began. I was just trying to fit in that night. You know how those work people can be. I do, I said. That's why I didn't make you the punchline. She flinched. I was under pressure, she continued. Everyone there was accomplished. Confident. I didn't want to seem like I'd settled. That word again. Settled. I folded my hands. Steady. So you lowered me. She sighed. You're twisting it. No, I said calmly. I'm naming it. She leaned forward. Why can't you just accept that I've grown? That I want more from life. I'm glad you want more, I replied. I just won't be used as proof of what you think you've outgrown. Her voice sharpened. You're being dramatic. I'm being precise. She stared at me, searching for the version of me that would apologize for existing. I didn't marry you for status, she said. I married you because you were dependable. There it is, I said quietly. What? The truth you keep circling. She frowned. What truth? That you didn't choose me, I said. You selected me. Silence. I was safe, I continued. Not inspiring. Not desired. Safe. She crossed her arms. You're projecting. I'm remembering, I said. Very clearly. She stood up abruptly. So what, you're just done? I looked at her. Really looked. The woman I'd bent myself around for over a decade. Yes, I said. I am. Her mouth fell open slightly. You're ending this? Over one dinner. I shook my head. Over years of being edited down so you could feel taller. She scoffed. You'll regret this. Maybe, I said. But I already regret staying quiet. She laughed, sharp and dismissive. You think you're better than me now? No, I replied. I think I finally remember I'm not less. She packed her things that night. No screaming. No pleading. Just resentment wrapped in sarcasm. As she left, she turned and said, You know, everyone thinks you're the problem. I nodded. That's okay. The door closed behind her. The divorce was unremarkable. Paperwork. Division of assets. Neutral lawyers. No dramatic scenes. What surprised her was how little I fought. I didn't argue over furniture. Or timelines. Or narratives. I let her keep the version of me she needed because I no longer needed to correct it. Months passed. I changed nothing externally. Same job. Same city. Same quiet routines. But internally, something fundamental had shifted. I stopped explaining myself. Stopped shrinking my language. Stopped apologizing for being solid instead of flashy. One afternoon, I ran into Lena again, the woman from the dinner. Coffee shop near my office. She smiled when she saw me. You look lighter. I feel clearer, I said. She nodded. I'm glad. We didn't talk about my ex. We didn't need to. That night, alone in my apartment, a smaller one now, I thought about the humiliation, about how public it felt, how small I'd been made to feel. And then I realized something that surprised me. The worst part wasn't the laughter. It was that I'd stayed silent so long I almost believed her version of me. If you're listening to this and you've been reduced to a role, the safe one, the boring one, the convenient one, hear me. Being steady is not a flaw. Being private is not weakness. And being unwilling to perform your own humiliation is not insecurity. Sometimes dignity doesn't clap back. It just stands up and walks away.